How the 1% spends their money differently. A story about choices, not just cash. Two people wake up on the same morning in the same city. They drink the same coffee, scroll the same social media, and complain about the same rising prices. But 10 years later, one is still worried about bills, a broken bar, and the other quietly belongs to the top 1%. What changed? It wasn't luck, it wasn't intelligence, and it definitely wasn't working harder every single day. It was how they spent their money. Today, we're going to walk through a story not of mansions and private jets, but of decisions. Because the biggest secret of the 1% isn't how much they earn a broken bar, it's how differently they spend. The illusion of wealth. Most people think rich people spend money on luxury. Fancy cars, designer clothes, massive houses, expensive vacations. And yes, the 1% can afford those things. But here's the twist. That's not where their money goes first. In fact, many truly wealthy people look surprisingly a broken bar ordinary. They drive cars that are paid off. They wear simple clothes. They don't post their purchases online. Why? Because they understand something most people never learn. Looking rich and being rich are two completely different games. The average person spends money to signal success. The 1% spends money to create more success. Consumption versus ownership. Let's follow our story. Meet Alex and Ryan. Alex gets a raise. The first thought is simple. Finally, I can upgrade my lifestyle. New phone, better car, more eating out, a nicer apartment. Ryan also gets a raise, but thinks differently. Instead of asking what can I buy, Ryan asks, what can I own? This is the first major difference. The average person spends on consumption. The 1% spends on ownership. Consumption makes life feel better right now. Ownership makes life easier forever. Stocks, businesses, real estate, intellectual property. While Alex's money disappears every month, Ryan's money starts working while he sleeps. Time is the real luxury. Here's something shocking. The 1% values time more than money. Most people trade time for money. The wealthy trade money for time. They pay for cents assistance, cents automation, cents delegation, cents systems, cents expertise, not because they're lazy, but because they understand this rule. You can always make more money. You can never make more time. If something saves them 10 hours a week, it's not an expense, it's an investment. While others brag about working 16-hour days, the 1% quietly builds systems that don't need them present all the time. Education that pays back. When most people hear education, they think of school debt. The 1% thinks of leverage. They spend money learning things that directly increase their earning power. cents business skills, cents financial literacy, cents negotiation, cents leadership, cents technology, cents communication. They don't chase random degrees. They chase skills with return on investment. If a course costs $5,000 but can increase income by $50,000, they don't hesitate. Why? Because they don't see education as a cost, they see it as a multiplier. Risk looks different at the top. Here's another myth. Rich people hate risk. The truth? They hate stupid risk. The average person risks everything on one paycheck, one job, one employer, one income stream. The 1% spreads risk. Cents multiple investments, cents multiple businesses, cents multiple income streams. They're willing to lose small amounts to avoid losing everything. They ask questions like, what's the downside? What's the worst case scenario? Can I recover from this? They don't gamble, they calculate. Status is quiet. Most people spend money trying to impress people they don't know. The 1% doesn't care. Their status comes from cents control, cents freedom, cents influence, cents ownership, not likes, not followers, not brand names. They understand something powerful. The loudest person in the room is rarely the richest. While others flex online, the wealthy build offline. Delayed gratification is their superpower. Here's where the story really shifts. Alex wants results now. Ryan is patient. Alex spends future money today. Ryan invests today for future freedom. The 1% is obsessed with long-term thinking. They'll delay pleasure for years if it means cents financial independence, cents generational wealth, cents optional work, cents peace of mind. They're not against enjoyment, they just enjoy later, bigger, and without stress. Money as a tool, not a trophy. For most people, Money is emotional. It's tied to fear, status, security, ego. For the 1%, money is a tool. A hammer doesn't make you powerful, knowing how to use it does. They don't worship money, they direct it. They ask, what problem can this solve? How can this grow? How can this protect me? Money becomes fuel, not identity. Chapter 9. Why this matters to you. Here's the most important part of this story. You don't need to be rich to think like the 1%. You can start with $0 spending less on image, $0 spending more on assets, $0 protecting your time, $0 learning high-value skills, $0 thinking long-term. Wealth isn't built in one big moment. It's built in small decisions repeated daily. The difference between average and wealthy isn't income, it's intention. Final thoughts. The 1% doesn't spend more, they spend smarter. They don't chase luxury, luxury follows them. They don't chase freedom, they build it. And the biggest secret, anyone can learn this mindset. Few choose to apply it. The question isn't whether the 1% lives differently. The real question is, will you? If you want, I can also rewrite this in a more dramatic, documentary tone.